All right. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start. I want to value your time and take up as little of it as possible here, but I also have some important information to give to you moving forward. According to my screen, anyways, there's a few new things. Do you see when you're looking at your Google Meet in the upper left-hand corner, do you see the ability to raise your hand or give a thumbs up? Hit a thumbs up if you have that ability. I'm seeing it. All right, good. So this is kind of nice. If you do have a question, hi Daniela. If you do have a question, just go ahead and hit that little the raise the hand guy there, and that way I'll know. And that way you don't have to sort of come in with the mic, and it gets a little bit confusing when we're listening to overlapping audio. But I do want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions then today. I guess before we get started, are there any questions? Anyone have any questions? All right. So I'm going to go ahead then and pull up today's classroom and just talk a little bit about what I've learned about our AP test coming up in May, and what we're going to do to prepare for it and what that's going to look like going forward. So I'm going to share my screen. And you should be looking at our Google Classroom right now. So I got two posts. Here's the day's agenda, and this is just telling us, hey, we got to meet at 9:30 and you're here. Thanks for being here. Today, this is today's assignment, and I'll talk about that towards the end of our meeting here today. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. And again, this is linked on there, so you can check this out at your own leisure. But this is what I've learned. Now, last week they released the details about the AP exam info, what it's going to be like. So first of all, a couple things that are important for you moving forward. I think everyone except one student has registered for the exam, and I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and take it. I'm going to count that exam as your final. So what that means is, although I'm not going to get your official scores back until like July, how the AP official graders grade it, I will get your work done back. So they'll send me a computer version of your work, and they'll send me the scoring guidelines back before you graduate. So that's way faster than we've seen stuff like that in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use those scoring guidelines. I'm going to score what you've done, and I'm going to go ahead and use that as your final. I'm not quite sure how you're going to feel about that. There's a little bit of some high stakes to it, I guess, because it will be your final. But at the same time, you don't have to prepare for two separate tests, the exam and then a final in class. So we're going to use that. If for whatever reason you can't end up taking the AP exam, the official exam, let me know, before we do that, and I'll arrange kind of an alternate for you to do. But I would like you to be able to do it during the same time. So they moved the dates around a little bit. The exam and final dates are released. For physics, it's Thursday, May 14th, and it's at 1 p.m. You're going to do it from home. You're going to be allowed to use a computer. You're going to be allowed to use, your phone, your Chromebook, you name it. You're going to be allowed to use it. They're referring to this as open world. So open world basically means it's open notes. And we'll talk a little bit about the boundaries of what does it mean to cheat on something like this. How are they going to know you don't have a physics expert with you, or someone else is logged onto the computer doing the work for you? AP, or the College Board, swears they have a bunch of algorithms that can detect that. And they're releasing some of that, but they've flat out said, we're not going to release all of it. We're not going to tell you guys how to beat our system. But we'll talk a little bit about it. I'm not too concerned. I think you guys are honest. I think you're going to do the best you can, and you'll do that. The other thing is it's only 45 minutes. So you're not going to be able to, go around, ask your neighbor who may have a degree in science about a question and then come back in and answer it. You only have 45 minutes from the moment they start the assessment, from the moment it ends, and that's a hard deadline. So that means they've shrunk the test down to 2 free response questions. Every year, the free response questions, there's 4, sometimes 5, but usually 4. And they, 1 is always a particular theme, 2 is always a particular theme, so on and so forth. They've told us what those themes are going to be. So what they're predicting their long question, about 25 minutes to answer, will be what is referred to as the qualitative quantitative translation. So there's always a question that involves doing something of this form. And one of the things we're going to learn, in the coming days is what do questions like that look like? In fact, today's assignment will be your first example of looking at something like that. They're going to give you then, or they're planning in there, a 5 minutes for upload. Now, this is interesting to me. They've said you may do a written document, if you want to use an equation editor or something like that, or write on the document that they've provided. They haven't given us specifics about what that's going to look like yet. They say at the end of April or towards the end of April they will. Or you can actually do the work by hand. So I imagine a lot of us, if we're going to be doing deriving equations, or might find it faster to do it by hand, and then you would submit a picture of that handwritten work. At least that's what they told us at the meeting last week. There is also going to be one 15-minute question, and that's going to be a paragraph argument short answer. And that's usually like question 4 or 5 on the regular AP test. And again, they're going to give you a 5 minutes for uploading that paragraph in your documentation for that answer. And again, we're going to practice, what does it mean? How do we get points for a paragraph argument short answer? All right. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I got to look at the screen. Are there any questions then, guys, so far? I'm not seeing any. I just see raising my own hand. All right. So I'm going to move forward then. Bring the screen back. Okay. And again, if you're not seeing what it sounds like I'm talking about, unmute your mic and tell me what you're looking at. So then what does that mean that we're going to do moving forward? Moving forward, we're going to get organized. So one of the things that it says, it's okay to have your notebook out in front of you. It's okay to have projects, labs, and things on a computer, and you're using those that you've done. So one of the things that we might want to do in the coming days is sort of get organized around the topics that we've learned about, whether it's going to be in your physical notebook or binder, the things that you've kept, whether it's labs that you still have in your Google Drive. We might want to organize those under different contents. We are only doing the first 7 units. Like I said, in the interest of getting everyone through, they've cut out the last 2 units. And these are the units: kinematics, dynamics, circular motion and gravitation, energy, momentum, simple harmonic motion, and torque and rotational motion. So we really have 2 tasks moving forward to next month's test. We want to review the content of these subjects. We want to know the physics of them. But we also want to kind of think about them is, what are these going to look like? What will this content look like in the 2 types of questions that they might ask us on the test, that they will ask us on the test: the qualitative quantitative translation and the paragraph arguments. So that's really kind of, it's nice in one way because we're super focused, way more focused than any other year of the AP test, about what is the test going to look like. Right? There's less material. We know what kind of questions we're going to have to answer. And we are pretty lucky that we're done with all of the stuff. Some of the other classes, I know bio and chem, are still kind of wrapping up learning new stuff, that we can devote our time to studying for this. So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about the test. And as more information comes out, I'll give you some more ideas. What's it going to look like on your computer? They said they're going to get us that information by late April. So I don't know exactly what the interface on the computer is going to be like, but as soon as we find out, we'll practice using that so you're confident with it. I did put this link here, this open world link here. This is from AP or the College Board, and it's a message or a link to AP students. Hopefully your link will work. Mine's not showing up. But it's just about information that what the new test is going to be like. If you take another test, it's got a schedule up there and everything like that. Okay. So pull this off. Stop sharing. Any questions yet, guys? So I'm going to go ahead then and talk a little bit about our assignment for today. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apologize about yesterday's assignment. Yesterday's assignment was really kind of experimental in that I wanted to see what the College Board's AP Classroom look like, and how is it to put out an assignment and for you to return one. And the students that have returned them, I think you did a pretty good job on it. But in my opinion, from an instructor and putting myself into a student's role, it's kind of cumbersome to do it that way. Where you get it, you have to either, write a response and upload it as a PDF or some written response. If you need to do a graph, that's kind of a pain. You got to take a picture of something. So in short, I'm not going to use the College Board's website for review anymore. I think it would have been really useful if we still had multiple choice to deal with. But because we're doing free response, and every year they release free response questions to the public to use, man, we've got a lot of stuff that we can study from. And we'll practice, how are you going to show me what your free responses look like then today? So what I am going to do right now is I'm going to go back to the classroom and I'm going to pull up what do I want you to start working on then today. I think I am. All right. So again, you should be looking at our classroom, and if you're not seeing it as I'm droning on, unmute your mic and let me know. Here's the assignment for today, so I'll go ahead and open it up. It's pretty short, and what I meant by apologizing for yesterday, if you didn't finish yesterday's assignment, if you didn't turn it in, I'm not gonna track it. I'm not gonna put it on Aries or anything like that. If you did do it, I did look at it. People that did turn it in were getting the idea and doing a pretty good job. But it's just too cumbersome to do it that way. So this is what I want to work on then today. This has been pushed out to every one of you, right? And of course, it's just been pushed out, so no one's turned it in. Let me show you the instructions for today. So what we have plenty of from years past, because they release right after the test, is we have just a ton of released free response questions. And really the best way to study is to look at old free response questions. So here's the question, QQT. This is an example of where we know we're going to get an example of this on there, the qualitative quantitative translation. So this problem is there. You can see they're saying it takes about 25 minutes, which is what they're recommending on there. So the first thing I want you to do, right, according to our tips, is read this question as carefully and as slowly as you can. A lot of you identified that as going to be a struggle for you, is reading things slowly and carefully. It should be a little bit easier with the test now because you're only going to have to read carefully and closely 2 questions. So you're going to read those 2 questions. Before you even dig in and try to do the physics and solve it, I want you to look at this document. I took a screenshot from something. I couldn't find a PDF online, but I have material for it. This is from the College Board, and they refer to these as task verbs. So when we're reading through questions, we want to look for these words: calculate, compare, derive, describe, determine, evaluate, so on and so forth. So as we're reviewing for it, that's going to be our first thing, is we're going to read closely and we're going to look for these task verbs as what they want us to do to answer the question correctly. So today, the instructions read this: carefully read the quantitative qualitative translation problem. That's this. Use the attached task verb list and highlight any of the words you see appear in the problem with the Kami editor, right? So I know several of these words, these task verbs, appear in there. So the first thing I want you to do before you even start solving and doing the physics of it is I want you to read the problem thoroughly and just use the Kami highlighter. And every time you see a word from this list, put it in that document. The third part is I want you to go and actually try to solve the problem. Solve the problem as you wish. If you want to use it in the document form, if you want to try to annotate and do the sketching on the graph and everything with Kami and turn in the PDF that's annotated at the end, that's fine, because you're going to have some option to do that on the test in May. If you would rather do, sketch the graph neatly and do the answers in writing by hand, that's fine as well, because you're going to be able to take a picture and submit it. I'm okay with you submitting either one of those for this. My goal is to really never give you more than 1, maybe 2 shorter free response questions or review material really for the next month. But remember that the review itself is in Aries as a section of our grade book. So submitting stuff and showing to me that you're working on learning this stuff will count in as your grade. So your grade will change as we're studying and getting ready for this exam, right? So I'm going to stop sharing that. So there's a lot of me droning on. I see most of you are still here. Are there any questions? Do you know what's expected of you then for today or tonight? You can unmute your mics and let me know. I don't know whether my screen is frozen. Oh, Guthrie's there. I see a video. Most of you have gone to save some bandwidth. I just see pictures, so I don't even see video. So if you guys are good, if you have any questions, you can ask them right now. If you're good to go and you think you know what you need to do to move forward today, that's all I have planned for you guys. As always, I've got office hours from about 3 to 4. And if you want to Google Hangout me, like my computer's always open, I hear a chime, and I can help you with some of those problems. Cindy, you asked, does yesterday's assignment count towards our grade? No, it won't. And that's what I say. I'm kind of apologizing to the students that put the effort in. I think it was good for studying, but it was kind of experimental. And I think that using the College Board's website for this is just a little bit too cumbersome to move forward. So if you didn't do it, I'm not going to fault you for not completing it or not doing it. But today, what I just pushed out today, I am going to evaluate. I'm going to show you some grading and ask you to comment on it tomorrow. All right, guys, if you don't have any questions for me right now, that's it. Thanks for showing up. And again, contact me if you have any questions moving forward. I'm going to try to be as explicit and direct with instructions as possible. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you, Henning.
You're welcome, guys.
Adios.
Bye, Blake.